Hi, welcome to the energy update for May. I'm Lee, and every month I take the pulse on what's showing up collectively, energetically, psychologically, and hopefully a few tips on how to deal with it. So a few of the headlines for this month are: we're going into the deep end of the coronavirus experience and what that will do for you and how that will show up. Emotional scale is going to shift from the volcanic to the tender in the coming month. Truths being revealed and how that might look for you personally and what that looks like for us collectively. And fine-tuning your values is another aspect that is going to be showing up, plus many more. So stay tuned for the full update. Hey everyone, welcome to the energy update for May, and I hope you're doing okay out there. I've said this in multiple videos recently, but no matter where you are or who you are right now, this experience that we're all going through as a world, I recently read that 190 something countries are in shelter in place or lockdown. And so it's going round, and even the people that I know who perhaps aren't as economically or as impacted on a health level as others that I know, even they are experiencing the kind of weirdness of this time and what it brings up for you. For those of you who might be deep in the grief process, I mentioned this in my April energy update, that you might want to check out my mid-March coronavirus energy update, which is found on my YouTube channel. If you're watching this over on Facebook, go to Lee Harris Energy on YouTube. I go deep into how the grief process shows up. And grief doesn't always have to mean something bad happens or we lose someone in our life. It's just the shock process that we go through when a sudden or extreme change happens in our lives. So grief is an undercurrent during this time, but this month, as we'll see, things are going to shift a little bit as we go into and through May. So let's take a look at some of the headlines that came to me in the last day while I was preparing to deliver this message for you. So number one, we're going into the deep end of Corona now. It doesn't mean it's the end of this whole experience, but it does mean that we're beginning to enter deeper territory. So in the last 6-8 weeks, a lot of the surface ripples that many of us have been experiencing, or the immediate reaction to the sudden change in the planet, have cycled through. So for a lot of you, you will no longer be in quite the same shock, fight or flight that you were. And instead, it will be a deeper end of this process that you're now entering. This really relates to and connects to change. So we're in a very changed time. And what that will do for us is it will cause us to evaluate things, look at how we want to be different in the future, look at how we want to be different in our lives and in ourselves in the now. And so we're about to go into that deeper phase. We're just entering into the deeper territory. So for any of you who are like, oh my God, I can't take any more, don't worry, it doesn't mean that what you've been going through is actually just going to accelerate. Quite the opposite. It means that whatever those reactions have been so far, you're about to get underneath them. And that can be different for different folks. For some of us, that can be very uncomfortable, but for those of you who have been through a lot of discomfort in the last 6-7 weeks, there's only so long that we can thrash around in those emotions. There comes a point when we have to drop in. And so what you're going to find as you go through May and beyond is you're going to start to have a new way of seeing what you're going through right now, but even more importantly than what you're going through right now, a way of seeing who you want to become in the future. And this is collective too. Even just in the conversations that I'm having with friends or hearing other people talking about things online, there's a real world shift that is taking place because of this experience that's affecting everybody. So we're going into the deep end, which means a lot more stuff can come to the surface. And for those of you who love all that and you're really down for excavating, ascending, you're going to be actually having quite a rich time. For those of you who are a little more hesitant to make changes in your life, you'll find that this coming month, it will be a bit more supportive to you than, say, the last 6-8 weeks, where you'll have been a bit more in reaction, a bit more the surface ripples, a bit more the first layers of how do I deal with this very new scenario. Equally, we're going to see the second theme showing up this month, which is truth surfacing. Now, this intrigued me because I get these headlines intuitively. I get given the headlines for these energy updates. And I don't know about you, but I'm feeling like we're talking a lot about what's the truth in the last few months. I feel like that has been certainly a global conversation in many ways. So I'm curious about how this truth surfacing is going to show up for us. But one of the things that came to me this morning as I was meditating on it is you're going to see deep shadows and truths surfacing, and it will start to get bigger and stronger in the month of May. I'm sure it will carry on beyond that, but May, don't be surprised if somebody in your life, or if we see this on a world scale, some quite deep, dark, old truths surface, and ultimately they will have a healing effect. But in the moment of you hearing it, seeing it, feeling it move through you, it will be a shock. And what you will notice with any of these truths that get revealed is very quickly, because of the way the energy is right now, your life and your perspective will be reorganized very quickly, that this perhaps ugly truth will make total sense. In the moment of seeing it, hearing it, feeling it, you might be wanting to push away from it. But quite quickly, you will notice, if you're anybody who's experiencing this, you'll suddenly go, oh, this makes a lot more sense of what's been going on. So there is this shadow side that's coming up and out. It may come through you, it may come from someone outside you. I'm also expecting certain things on a world scale to start to ramp up around that in the month of May, based on what I was getting this morning. So look out for that. But essentially, we're all, as a world, being turned upside down and shaken from the ankles, because anything that's stuck, dark, or too old can no longer go with us where we're going next. So that's old ways of thinking, old ways of being, old ways of consciousness. Now, when I talk about May, I think this is going to keep going for months. But May, there is going to be a rise around this, so you'll notice it showing up. Fine-tuning your values is theme number 3. Fine-tuning your values. You may be going through a real value review, and for some of you, this will be a bit unconscious, because some of you are going to be a bit exhausted right now. You're like, oh God, I can't read another article. I can't deal with another. I just can't. And that's okay, because don't worry, when our minds get tired of taking it all in, doesn't mean we're not still moving through what's going on here energetically. So it's perfectly fine if you can't handle another conversation about what's going on in the world. I'm amazed you're watching this video if that's the case. But understand that you'll still be fine-tuning your values even if you aren't thinking about them too much. Because again, the energy that we're in right now, it's a collective energy field, and it's changing and it's moving through us all of the time. So fine-tuning your values, if you want to look at it in very specific ways, a good question to ask yourself right now, and I think this is going on for many of us, is there are certain things that we know that we appreciate from pre-corona, before we were all sheltering in place. There are certain things that we look back and we go, oh, I really appreciate that thing that I took for granted, but equally look at the other side of it. What is it you don't miss? What is it that now you've been asked to live in a smaller, simpler, more paused way? What is it that you're recognizing there's a bit more space for, a bit more time for, perhaps a slower pace that you weren't always allowed to have or allowing yourself? So fine-tuning your values around what's important to you. And this shows up in relationships too. You may have a very low tolerance right now for certain relationship dynamics that you've always been in, or perhaps have been exacerbated in the last 6 to 8 weeks. And you're like, yeah, that's not my value. I don't connect with this. And it's okay. It's okay to be at the end of your tether with some of this stuff. Not necessarily okay to whack someone over the head with the fact that you're at the end of your tether, but get really clear, I'm at the end of my tether with this. And so how can I communicate my truth? Because fine-tuning your values will affect personal relationships, as well as your general outlook and your plans for the future, your design for the future, your design for what you're doing next. Okay, volcanic to the tender is the emotional scale that we're dealing with in the month of May. This is theme number 4, volcanic to the tender. When I was given the word volcanic, I was like, oh, okay, but it's not a bad thing. It's not that different to the theme that I gave you earlier of we're going into the deep end. So in mid-March, I talked about this extreme stretch between the scale of fear and love, that the range of fear and love was going to a wider place than many of us had ever known it in our lifetimes. And that was around the middle of March. I don't know about you, but I definitely saw that show up for about the next 4 or 5 weeks. These extremes of fear and love. So incredible love, incredible heartfelt moments with people, incredible epiphanies with the energy of the world, with the energy from the sky, but equally a hell of a lot of fear and a hell of a lot of deep dives into fear and other people spreading fear to each other, and this fear virus that was essentially going around. So the volcanic to the tender is the emotional scale that in a way is very similar to fear and love, but you'll be noticing that your own personal emotions may be a bit more volcanic than normal. Doesn't always mean you're having eruptions at other people, but you might be feeling these eruptions of emotion. And again, the root chakra is being activated for many of us, especially if you're here and you're quite mission focused. You know, you're somebody who's like, yeah, I definitely need to either expand my mission, change my mission, get more into my mission. You'll be feeling a lot of energy moving through your torso, not so much up here, not so much crown, not so much third eye, a little bit more in the torso and the body and the root. So that volcanic energy is ultimately going to propel you forward. But for some of you who aren't used to feeling that deep stuff, it might be a surprise. Equally, the tender. So the other end of the volcanic reaction scale is very tender, very vulnerable, very sensitive. So what I'm getting as I'm speaking to you about this is you might be surprised which camp you find yourself in. You might be that very sensitive person in your group and all of a sudden you're volcanic and you're like, whoa, this isn't how I normally experience myself. And equally, you might be the slightly more robust, slightly more, I just get on with things, I'm the person. And you find you're feeling quite vulnerable, quite sensitive, quite fragile. So this volcanic to the tender emotional scale might move through you, but don't be surprised if you find it in people outside you. People outside you who aren't normally as sensitive as they are might be a little more sensitive to your words or to things that they're seeing in the world. Equally, they might be a bit more volcanic in their reactions. So just be aware that the scale is going to be a bit more spiky in the month to come. It will be mostly steady, but these volcanic moments or these high spikes of tender sensitivity can come up at the moment. So, theme number 5. Upgraded listening. The power of our listening is being amplified right now energetically, and you'll hear more truth that people may not even be conscious that they're broadcasting to you. But the message was that many in our group are going to have an ability to really deeply hear people in a more detailed way. And what I mean by this is you'll be able to understand what they're saying through the way they're saying it. Even if their words are conveying 30% of the information, you'll notice your receptivity to people's tone, to people's emotions, so essentially becoming a bit more empathic. Highly tuned empaths who are good at being able to analyze is the wrong word, it's a little too clinical, but perhaps understand or analyze the feelings that they are receiving from people. It's going to be a bit more of that phase that's kicking in for more people. So people are able to listen in a slightly more feeling way because more and more people are being activated in their feelings. So of course, like anything I ever say in a video like this, that's not going to be the same for everybody. But the message is that there is an upgraded listening happening for more and more people on the planet. And that will show up in a bigger way this month. So some of you may be experiencing that yourselves, but equally you might be beautifully surprised by people around you. People who you perhaps normally don't feel so understood by, or who you haven't always identified as the most caring or nurturing people, and all of a sudden they're really listening to you deeply. So upgraded listening and the power of listening is going to be amplified in the coming months, but especially starting this month in May. Okay, theme number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, people pleasers, you are going to have an identity crisis in May, and I'll tell you why. People pleasers and nice people will be having a very hard time right now, and if you're not having a hard time already, watch out for May. Here's why, and it's a good thing. This is not a time to be nice over being truthful. I'll say that again. This is not a time to be nice over being truthful. Now, if you're a fairly harmonic communicator, if you communicate fairly harmonically, you can be truthful and, nice is maybe a strong word, but you can be truthful and kind. You don't always have to be, aggressive or negative, which I think is the shadow side for people pleasers a lot of the time. A lot of the time, people pleasers are people who are deeply sensitive, who are so sensitive to the way that other people speak to them that they would never dare to push too much on other people. So they try and keep the peace, and they like harmony energy. But at a certain point in the life of a people pleaser, you have a recovering people pleaser here. At a certain point in the life of a people pleaser, your people pleasing starts to hit you in the face and starts to undo your life in order to show you that you don't have to please everyone else at the expense of yourself. But the bigger lesson behind it is you're not really pleasing anybody when you're not being truthful, really. If we look at it energetically, me inauthentically trying to please somebody is me bringing inauthentic, not fully whole, embodied energy to them. And it's okay, because that level of consciousness is playing out all over the world. And we've all been in it, come through it. Sometimes we are in that state. But to really become whole and to really embody who we are as a soul on the earth, we can let more of that truth into our systems. So if you're a people pleaser, or if you're a nice person, expect to go through an identity crisis in May if you aren't already, if it isn't already uncomfortable for you at the moment, because it's time you found your truth. And the world wants more of your truth, not more of your nice behaviors. Because the good news is, if you're a sensitive person, which people pleasers are, you will find the more you uncover your truth, you will still want to be kind. You will still value being a good person in the world. You might just go through a period where you're not behaving the way you used to. You're changing the program of your personality, and that will be a little uncomfortable for you. So brings us back to the deep end of this experience we're in right now. Okay, number 7 is the rise of the hero archetype. The rise of the hero archetype. So there are many archetypes, and we all have a little bit of many archetypes, but one of the things I was given was the rise of the hero is going to come in, and what that archetype is for us. And of course, the first thing I think of is those people that we are grateful to right now who are really on the front line. Healthcare workers, first responders, all of the people who are providing the essential services to us, who are on the front line of all of this. And that hero archetype, I think, is very much in our consciousness. But what came to me is it goes a little bit deeper. Heroic acts, moments, and people will be championed energetically in the months to come. But it's also a time where we're digging deep. We're out of our patterns. We're out of our unconscious patterns in the world. So you're finding, who am I? What is the heroic side of me? And the heroic side of you is just stretching yourself on behalf of others, going to an uncomfortable place. So I would also say that any of you who are homeschooling right now, You're the heroes of your house. And it doesn't mean you always have to be in a good mood, because I'm sure many of you who are parents who are homeschooling, I'm sure it's tough at times, and I'm sure you're struggling at times. But it's a very heroic thing that you are doing in trying to bring that energy into your home and that structure to your kids. So I salute you if that's what you're doing. And this rise of the hero archetype is going to be something that, sure, we see and we celebrate in others, but you'll notice it might start moving through you in interesting ways. So look out for that in the month of May. Number 8, allowance and acceptance. It's where the magnetic and the abundant energies are stored right now. I'll say that again. Allowance and acceptance is where the magnetic and the abundant energies are stored right now. You know, whenever any of us get into a fight with anything, whenever we get into a fight with ourselves or a fight with something that's bothering us that we can't get through, you know, we get stuck there, we get locked. Sure, we sometimes move some energy that we need to burn off, but ultimately, it's when we're able to accept our circumstances that the energy starts to move again. And hey, don't judge yourself. Don't beat yourself up if you're in a situation right now that you can't accept. You know, a lot of people who are spiritually minded do that all the time. You know, we beat ourselves up because we're not being very spiritual, and I think that's a complete myth. If you're in a human body, if you're alive right now, you're being spiritual. You're of spirit. This is spiritual. That's it. So try and be aware that the more you can allow and accept your circumstances right now, that's where energetic magnetism and abundance lies for you. So I bring that in because I'm asked to bring that in for any of you who are in resistance, in struggling, you're fighting. Try accepting and see what happens, and try practicing accepting, and try saying, well, what would happen if I accepted this? How differently would I feel if I accepted this? Doesn't mean I have to like it, doesn't mean I have to agree, but what if I accepted what my new situation, what my current situation is? It's going to free up a lot of energy for a lot of you if you are stuck with that. So the other thing to remember is when we allow and accept, our fear gets diffused. And that's really important because our fear is based on past events, traumas, memories. It's also based on fear of an unknown future or an uncertain future. And when we're in fear of the past or fear of the future, we're disabled. Our life force comes off center. We come away from our core. So fear is going to happen for all of us. It's going to move through us. But can we just let it move through? And can we come to a place of accepting what we might be afraid of, and then from that place we have a new power base on which to build some solutions towards the problem or the issue we might be facing. Okay, so last two themes are you are love and you are loved. Very simple one, but I was asked to remind you, you are love and you are loved. Love is the womb of your soul, so don't forget it. Love is the womb of your soul, so don't forget it. Love is where you were created, and love is what you create when you're living with your soul. So, and finally, the chaos of this time has a design right now. Many of you I know will already be feeling this, but the chaos has a design right now. It wants to reveal a higher perfection to us on the planet. But that takes time because there's a lot of shadow that's moving out in order for that to happen. So right now, as much as things can feel and seem chaotic, there is a perfection and a peace underneath that wants to burst through, and that's just going to take some time. Thank you so much everyone for tuning in. So welcome to my energy update. If this is your first time, you can subscribe on YouTube to receive this and all of my other free videos. If you're on Facebook, you can check out the YouTube channel. In a moment, I'm going to play you a clip of the latest MP3 recording. Every month, I create a channeled and a sound healing recording with Davor Bozic. And this month, it's called Why Your Soul Came to Earth. It's my guides, who we call the Z's, talking about why your soul comes to Earth and what you go through. And it features an original song called They Called Us Down. So we'll play you a clip of that in a moment. That MP3 is exclusively this month for members of my portal community. It's our wellness tribe, and every month We connect once a month on a deep dive broadcast called the Energy Tune-Up. We've actually just broadcast the first 30 minutes of last month's broadcast. It's called Tools for Tender Times. You might really enjoy it, but check out my portal community if you're interested in some of the techniques that we offer. So we have Qigong and meditation from Stephen Washington every month. I do a broadcast, there's a recording, there's a community, there are lots of other good things. So check that out. You can visit theportal.world, theportal.world, or at my website, leeharrisenergy.com. And last but not least, we are relaunching my course, Own Your Value. It's specifically for anyone who is a healer, a change maker, a creative, and is either wanting to start their business in the world or take what you do to the next level. And it's really designed for any of you who are working online. We had over 600 students take the course so far, and I'm doing a relaunch of it, which means I'm basically going to do some more live calls around it, and also we'll walk a whole group of you through it together. So it starts on May 27th, and registration is open until June 9th. So if you want to kick off your work in the world or take it to the next level, there are practical tools all the way through the course, but I also talk about the energy of your value, because in all my work with entrepreneurs over the last few years, and also one of my own bugbears was owning the value of our work, both in terms of how we feel about it, but also in recognizing how are the ways we can bring that value to the world, and how can we also support that value for ourselves, for paying our rent, all that stuff. And I think the money side of things can be very murky and can be tricky to get the balance right with. So that's why I created Own Your Value, so that you can find your way to really show up and offer your work in the world in a way that can be abundant for you, but also for the people that you serve. So check out ownyourvalue.world, or you can find it at my website. We'll play you now the clip of why your soul came to Earth. Thanks so much for tuning in, and big love, everybody. Why was the soul created in the first place? The soul was not created in a laboratory, it has been an evolution. The soul is simply consciousness. And when consciousness comes into form, and comes into form through a human body, it differentiates itself. It allows itself to create an imprint through each life that it then carries into the next. But, as we have said, souls are not constantly incarnate. We are not incarnate in a body right now, and yet we are here, very present. What has been happening in recent decades is more and more people jumping onto the Earth to try and help raise the frequency of the Earth. For the Earth is a very important resource universally. It is very important that this planet gets to lift, not decline. And so even though at this time you may identify that one of your problems is the way that humanity is using Earth, it is taking more and more of you to see and feel things that way to help raise the vibration of the planet. So too is it the case that when you tap into anything that is soul-focused, meditation, manifestation, intention, vision, a practice that lets your soul re-enter your body and the smallness of your human mind open up. What you are actually doing in that moment is connecting not so much to the oneness that you think you are, but in fact you are connecting to all of the souls on the planet that are part of your group. So when you are tapped in as a soul, you are not tapped in alone. And the wider energy that you start to feel in those moments is because you are directly connecting with the souls of others. It is why so many of you get in what you would call sync